Gunther Sorensen had fought through a war to find his love, the woman who he had sought to marry. In the end, she had made it on to one of the few evacuation ships, only steps away from Gunther, who had been blocked by a Krieg cordon. So Gunther set off from the refugee camp to remember his past. He almost reached the eatery, the exclusive one, the one for which he had purchased the ring. It was on an adjacent skyway. The internal walls had collapsed. Even if he could have made it to the door, he couldn't have got inside. And why would he thought. Those doors had always been closed to the likes of him before. He would recover few memories from in there. He could use the position of the eatery, however, to orient himself. He knew how many floors to drop now, how many more blocks to walk, before he came to the statue. It had been vandalized, of course, cut off at the knees, but its feet were still plastered to its layered plinth, and Gunther could sit on that plinth in the same spot he had sat before. He did so, tentatively, closed his eyes, and tried to imagine that nothing had changed since then. He tried to imagine Orks was beside him, that he could smell her blossom-scented perfume, see the sadness in her eyes as she looked up at the statue, a graven image of Orks' father. What had they done before that? He remembered. The newsreels. He had taken Orks to see them. They had made her uncomfortable. All that talk of bloodshed. But Gunther had said it was okay, because the Imperium always won. Orks had suggested they snatch protein burgers from a cart, surprising Gunther, who had been saving his credits for somewhat finer fare. He had loved that about her. The absence of any airs or graces. They had sat beside the statue as the city had closed around them. A perfect summer evening, until Gunther had spoiled it. His insecurities bubbling up as they always had.
Let's not talk about the future,
Orks had said, tearing her gaze from the statue, looking into his eyes instead. Her voice came as clear to him now as it had been back then.
I don't care about the future right now. We have this moment, and we should enjoy it, and not think about my uncle, or your job, or any of the rest of it. The future will happen regardless, and probably not in the way any of us expect. So why worry?
He had opened his mouth to argue, and Orks had leaned in and touched her lips to his, their first kiss. He had thought at first she was doing it to silence him. Then he had ceased to care if she was or she wasn't, just lost himself in that blissful moment. He hadn't forgotten a single detail. Orks broke off the contact, slipped through Gunther's arms, left him wreathed in a melancholic haze. On an impulse, he snatched the ring from his pocket, extended it towards her, begged her to take it before it was too late. Of course, she couldn't answer him. She was only a ghost. And when Gunther opened his eyes, she was gone. The past was gone. He was weeping, without having felt the tears coming, and once that dam had burst, he found he couldn't rebuild it. He was doubled over, convulsed by racking sobs, at the stone feet of Orks' heroic father, howling in anguish at all he had lost to the uncaring sky, and he didn't care who or what might have hurt him.